character.
Yes.
And it got to a point.
When you see the movie, Reagan, you will just die.
Keanu Reeves back again as John freaking Wick, the Baba Yaga. I don't mind other bad movies he's done ever since the John Wick franchise resurrected his career. But why are they ending the greatest franchise we have right now? And one of the greatest franchises in history.
Tell me why ain't nothing but a party.
This is a very sad day indeed. First inside job, now John Wick. Keanu, go back to the vampire order and dating age-inappropriate women so they won't ruin your work anymore. The story follows John back into the world again after the last battle, continuing seeking ways to end his life from the high table. This time the family in Paris intervene and the leader is determined to remove John Wick completely from the history. John, with the help of some former acquaintances, fight his way out from another impossible predicament in order to find the peace he seeks. The movie starts out slow, really slow for the first 20 minutes or something in order to bring us back into this world, since it has been 4 years since the last movie released. To be honest, these first 20 minutes are a little bit hard to chew through as all the characters keep asking John Wick to what end will he stop. Everything is only going to lead to his death. We hear that over and over again. In these 20 minutes or so, John Wick is not the central character. We see all the people in the city talking about things that happened in the previous movie and how John is in deep trouble. But as soon as these repetitive scenes are over, the movie picks back up instantly. I'm talking about the invasion of Osaka Continental. Starting from the Osaka scene, everything is basically perfect from that point onward. Every John Wick movie finds new and creative things to add into the lore and keep expanding this intriguing fictional world until the world we see now. A world where savages are bounded by rules so that they are not like the animals. After 3 films, this movie somehow managed to expand the lore again, and by a lot this time. Like a lot. We see new members of this gangster from different countries, and each family has their own unique attire, rules, ways of dealing with things, but are all underneath the high table. We also get rules and laws that are also an interesting addition to this lore, which just makes everything feels even bigger and more complete. Other stuff like new Baba Yaga mantle is being passed on, and the gangster radio, all of that may seem like something they did just to be special, but it adds a lot to the movie and none of them feels unnecessary or stupid. Every idea is absolutely amazing. The most anticipated elements of the franchise, action, not only maintain the high level of choreography, execution and creativity as the third film, it exceeds the third film, which is incredible given that the first 3 films are like 3 of the greatest action movies of all time now. This time a lot of new creative ideas are being integrated into the action and a lot of sequences are so unique and special. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen for 1 second. This movie is longer than the previous one, but every second of them are action movie gold. Keanu is still doing Keanu things, but with more new fighting weapons, ways and technique. The new addition Donnie Yen also brings a new and fresh take on the killer role. His physical limitation leads to a lot of new and innovative action sequences, and pair that with Donnie's excellent performance, he makes the character work so well in this world. Shamir Anderson's character does have some part in the action, but there's not much for him to do. He is the dog guy. The dog does most of the action for him, and the man himself is mostly there for the story. The John Wick franchise has always been praised for realistic style fighting, and this movie continues that tradition. At first, the action is not focusing on John, and it kind of feels a little bit extra, like just a wee bit. But when it gets back to John leading the movie, everything feels so grounded again. When he picks up the nunchuck, I was scared as the nunchuck doesn't really fit into this tone of realism, as we all know how flashy Bruce Lee played with those. But luckily, this is John Wick. The realistic element will never go away, which is great. I see John pick up the nunchuck, not doing some flashy move. Instead, he just swings like a madman, bashing those bodies. I was like, yeah, swing those baby, I love it. The only element that got less realistic, which happens very rarely in this film, is the throwing knife. I think it only happened once or twice and they all hit right on the target on the first try, but no damage is done there. The Paris Massacre is probably the most chaotic and beautiful and realistic and dangerous and tense action sequences I've ever seen. Just perfect all the way. We see John drifting, shooting, fighting, people bouncing around getting hit by cars, including John. Just absolute chaos in the most orderly manner. And the multiple one takes from the top view, it is really like a video game sequences that got brought to life. It is truly jaw-dropping to see the action in this movie. And the camera work plays a big role again in this movie. With the level of chaos, the camera work is impeccable. Every shot is clear and beautiful, and I can tell what is going on in every scene, no matter day or light. And the camera, as John Wick usual, stays still when it needs to in order to fully showcase the abilities of the actors and the stuntmen. Other times, the scenery is shot beautifully as well. Paired with the breathtaking location makes everything looks elseworld, but familiar in an elegant way. This movie also has extreme styles for each scene. The color and lighting also hits the right note on every shot. Each shot has the color and lighting that are very different from each other. The score and sound design is perfect as well. I know I'm basically praising everything, but this movie is really that good. Each scene is paired with the perfect music choices and the score is absolutely right for each scene. The most notable example is during Donnie Yen's fight scenes. The score will disappear completely when he fights, as he is playing a blind character, so no score to distract the audience from every sound in the shot. Just like how Donnie's character needs to rely on his hearing to battle his opponents. This is the kind of thought and attention to detail that this movie is working on. It is truly a technical masterpiece. The story has more depth than the previous ones as well. The two new characters, Kane and Nobody, that's his name, it forms a very interesting dynamic in the film. John is the man who has done it all and is at the point where he's fighting to get out. Kane is at the state that John was in the first movie, a man who just wants to leave this world and live a normal life with the people he loves, but keeps getting pulled back in by the table. Nobody, on the other hand, is the complete opposite from both men. He desperately wants to prove himself so he can enter this gangster world. Maybe like how John and Kane both started their journey in the gangster. Three men are being carefully written in the story, so in the end, every man gets to grow and evolve into a completely different person, which is incredible given how much the script has already done on the story and the lore. The overall plot is still very simple, John seeking to leave the high table, but it's the obstacles and the laws he needs to fight to carry this franchise and then nail that again. The story brings heart, joy, excitement, fun and brutality all together to form an unforgettable classic. Everyone's performances are brilliant. The scene stealer this time is Scott freaking Adkins, the Accident Man himself. Boy, am I glad to see this. Ever since I watched Accident Man and Accident Man 2, I know Scott has the potential for comedic roles, and this movie proves just that. His character is the blend of comedy and action, which he can do both. This Kingpin / Penguin-like character is absolutely brought to life by Scott, and he can be very proud of himself this time. This might be the big breakthrough he has been searching for. Another new addition that takes a lot of screen time is Bill Skarsgård. This young man is talented, we all know that, and here he plays the high table member from Paris, which he does a good job with. The accent needs a little bit of time to adjust to, but after a while I did get used to it, and he is absolutely amazing in the film as this brat kind of character. Donnie's Kane at first is just the cool blind kung fu master.
I have to go make a call.
The story did try to establish his motivation and story right from the get-go, but the lack of presence from his daughter really hurts his credibility at first, as I can't build the connection with him without seeing his daughter other than a small picture. But the story did manage to slowly overcome this problem by having every character basically seeing him as the man who will do anything for his daughter, like how John did his wife. So it did not become a major detriment as the story goes on. Until the very end, we finally see why she wasn't shown, as this makes a major impact on the end, which is again just brilliant. The action definitely overshadowed everything in the film as it is genuinely has a lot of action. To a point, I was like, are they going to ignore all the stories from the previous film, not even mentioning any of them? But luckily, that's not the case. Just before the Paris massacre, they steer back to John's love for his wife and it makes everything different for the ending. The movie is just so perfect. The ending is really sad as we might have a glimpse at the future of this franchise. Very sad stuff. And there's a post-credit scene, stay for that. It leaves an open-ended note which makes everything even more heartbroken and it keeps me continue to think about the ending, which is great. Nobody can know what happened for sure and this generates a lot of room for your own imagination. I mean, what else can I say anymore? This franchise has consistently improved with each movie release. And this one is no different. In fact, it improved twice as much, which makes it even more sad when you know the fate of this franchise after the ending. I got nothing bad or sad about the film. It might be the greatest action movie of all time. I mean it. Terminator 2, The Bourne Ultimatum, Die Hard. I mean the competition is definitely stiff, but this movie might just beat them all. Absolutely perfection. Breathtaking.
Is really going to be breathtaking.
If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Please, I beg you, go watch it.
Use my knowledge, I beg you.
This is what a movie is supposed to look like. Every hard work is shown on the screen and the care the filmmaker put into everything makes this franchise one of a kind and perhaps best of its kind. I bet Tom Cruise is regretting saying that The Flash is what cinema needs right now, huh? Cause this is what cinema needs. They don't even need the money that other big budget superhero films do, and none of them can hit the level this movie hit. Breathtaking.
Breathtaking.
Tomiko is a national treasure.
Move along.